what an introduction. And I think the best part of that was that Stephen was asking me for a fun fact, and I was thinking about that, and then we were just chatting, and he said, "You have a nickname?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a nickname, but my real name is kind of funny. It's Peggy Sue." And he says, "Oh, that's kind of a cool name." I said, "Do you have any idea where that name comes from?" And he says, "No." And I said, "The majority of the audience will." So thank you, and I do feel honored to be here after the speakers that we've had today, and I hope they're in the audience, because I'm now going to present my presentation as a problem for you to solve, and I want you to come back to me with how do we do this now at Berkeley. So I'm going to start with trying to get the slides to move. I'm going to start with some background on what we've been doing at UC Berkeley with process improvement over the past years. And I'd like to spend a couple of minutes just comparing that to what's going on at your organizations or institutions, and our strategy for business process management that we've been working on now, what we've been able to accomplish, and our next steps. And I'll also talk about our challenges quite a bit through this, and then wrap it up. And I've got, I think, a half an hour, about 20 minutes now. So in terms of background, first, I guess, for my background on campus, I've been on campus 14 years, and as Stephen mentioned, the last 4 years, I was the director of the Operational Excellence Program Office. And the Operational Excellence Program was started by the Chancellor in 2009 to address the financial situation, the continued disinvestment of the state in the University of California, and how that was impacting the Berkeley campus, and what changes were we going to make in administration in order to develop a sustainable financial model to go forward for the campus. Before that, my background is IT and project management. So actually on campus, I've been involved in process improvement since about 2005, when we started a grassroots effort on campus for process improvement. And then my position most recently, as Stephen mentioned also, is now the Chief Operating Officer for our Campus Shared Service Center. And I do want to mention, I've got two colleagues here in the audience, George and Stefan, who are the real process people in our organization now. On the campus, I'm going to give you some background of the environment on the campus. Our organizational structure historically has changed depending upon what the financial situation was on campus. As state funding was available, we became a more decentralized organization, and then when times would get tough, we would go back to becoming a more centralized. And this has been an ongoing cycle on campus for many, many years. And when times got good, it was throw more people at the problem, is the way that we addressed problems. And then, just for your information, I stole this image, which I think is a good image, from The Starfish and the Spider, which is a great book on organizational structures. Another piece of information about Berkeley is that the departments, we want the departments, and the departments need to be unique in their mission and the way that they are doing things that have to do with their teaching and research. However, we need to support that with standardized processes across the campus in order to get to the level of efficiency that we want to be at. Traditionally, we haven't supported it with standardized processes across the campus. Where we've been successful with process improvement is where all of the people that are doing the work report up to a single individual. So they're all in the same organization. And that's where we've been able to identify a shared vision of what we want the outcome to be, and we've been able to get the steps in order to get there. However, the organization on the campus actually looks more like this. It is a very decentralized organization. And the people that are doing the process are located all over the place. And so it makes it very challenging when the process crosses boundaries of who owns that process and is ultimately responsible for it. It's also difficult to get it to the top of the priority list when it needs attention because there isn't a recognition of ownership. If you only have a piece of that process, it's challenging to recognize that as the thing that should be at the top of the list to fix. So in the spring of last year, we started looking at getting to the improved processes is critical to getting to the results that we wanted from this operational excellence program. So we still have a lot of work to do with our processes to get to the level of efficiencies that we want. So we started looking at what, without governance around our business processes, without a methodology for how we're going to do this across campus, what impact is that having? And we identified many areas that it's impacting and causes for that. So we found that we are still thinking in vertical hierarchies rather than in the flow of work across the campus. We find that most people don't understand what business process management is, and why would you care whether you're doing that or not? We find that we have many experts that are involved in a process, but we don't have a decision maker. And we find that our communications between organizations that a process passes through are ineffective communications. So we've got people that are doing a lot of work with the best of intentions, but with poor results. So I'm wondering how this compares to your organizations and how if a process passes through boundaries, what does that look like in your organization? How is it working? And if you would, turn to the person that's sitting next to you and just spend a couple of minutes of exchange of how is it working in your organization. Is it?
Give me everything. I'll analyze it.
So I'm hearing here in the front row, believe it or not, they're telling me that they have similar challenges. Anybody else in the audience have similar challenges? God, got it. I was hoping it was only us and that you were going to answer this for us while we were here today. Anything to add then to what I just talked about? A bigger hammer? Is that what it takes? Yeah.
I think that you really feel like the virtue of how you really got the problem that you identified it.
Yeah.
That you have a management structure.
It's step one, right?
You do your work.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
We understand. We have a similar problem.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge. So, in the work that we've done in operational excellence, and now that we're also doing in the shared service center, when we have a problem, what we've identified is that we need to have then a strategy to help solve the problem. And this is from a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, which is a great book. I highly recommend it, by Richard Rummelt. And Rummelt says you have to have a kernel to the strategy, and the kernel has three pieces: the diagnosis or the problem statement, a guiding policy, how you're going to approach to overcome the obstacles, and then coherent actions of what you're going to do about that. So we've been addressing, trying to develop the strategy and then leverage that strategy. And I do think that we've identified, we at least have the diagnosis. We've identified what the problem is that we're trying to solve. And so a standard and coordinated business process management framework that's going to allow us to achieve our goals of efficiency and continuous improvement, strengthen our capability to manage organizational change for both our human and technology resources, and promote our commitment to one administration. So I will say that with the addition of shared services onto the campus, and shared service center is meant to handle a lot of the transactional work on the campus. In HR, it provides IT desktop support, it provides research administration, and then also business and financial is travel and entertainment reimbursement, procurement, and things like that. And with the addition of shared services into the campus, it has disrupted the dysfunctional way that we were doing work to begin with. We are really good at developing workarounds, and now introducing another component into the group that's managing processes has disrupted the workarounds and puts a spotlight on that. So working with one administration is referring to, there are many of us on campus that are providing administrative services to the campus, and we need to be working together to provide administrative services. So our guiding policy was to establish a scalable governance model. VCAF is the Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance, so that's where we're starting. But what we want is a scalable model that will scale from VCAF out to the rest of campus. So as an example, student affairs is outside of VCAF, and it's pretty important that we're also working across student affairs. So our model is to have an executive owner. So we identify who is ultimately responsible for the process. And that executive owner may have ownership of several processes, which are these numbers to the left. The executive owner is the person that's setting policy for the campus. And they would then probably delegate a process owner who is responsible to make sure that that process is working, that the work is flowing as it should be for the campus. And then that process would pass through many different departments usually on campus, and it would have a single set of controls that we are working with. It would have a shared vision. Everybody would understand what that was. And if anything happened along the way, these folks, if they need, the process owner is giving guidance, so they should know what they're supposed to be doing, but if they need help, if they need to make a change, they need to work through the process owner so that the upstream and downstream impact is being managed then. So this is our model that we've introduced to the campus. And we've introduced this through a project that was kicked off last spring when we did this analysis of what is the problem. And I'll talk a little bit about the results of that project in just a minute. So our coherent actions, we're establishing this a project with sponsorship of the Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance. So we had somebody that was at the top of the food chain. Identified a project team with cross-campus representation. And then we also planned a pilot with real projects so that we were testing this out as we were working on, is this the right governance structure? So we proposed that one, and then we've been testing it. We didn't get what we've wanted out of the project. So it was a one-year project. It's just concluded. And so we did accomplish some things that we were able to move the needle a little bit. We've motivated people to think about the value of identifying ownership and responsibility. I would also say that we've moved the needle on people are asking smarter questions now, which is a good indicator that we're moving in the right direction. We've developed some foundational tools. We did, through doing the pilot projects, increased cross-unit collaboration. I will, however, say that the majority of the projects were grassroots efforts. So it was people on the front line that were coming forward and saying, can we work on my project? I'll go get the sponsorship for it if we can work on my project. So I thought that was great. We are doing one on travel and entertainment reimbursement, which is a campus-wide. CFO has been identified as the executive owner, who sets policy for travel and entertainment. And we are now in the initial stages of implementation on that one. We established cross-unit collaboration for business process management that will continue to work on a toolkit training and projects, and George and Stefan are part of that. And then increased requests for process improvement assistance from Central Campus are coming into the Central Campus organizational development. So again, that's another indicator that we're getting people's attention, that there's more requests for help around process improvement. Where have the barriers been? Okay, I go back to, it was Tom, I think, our first speaker of the day, that talked about leadership is probably the most challenging to get on board. And in this case, it's definitely been the case. So we've had, it's challenging to get leadership on board to have a standard approach. The leaders want their approach in their areas. It's challenging to get them to collaborate across boundaries, that we'll take it into our shop and we'll do all the process and we'll just let you know what you need to do in your piece of it. And then identifying an owner of standards for the campus. So we did in the project without knowing who owns this now going forward, who's going to continue to carry forward the torch to say we need to have business process management and standards on the campus. And another thing that we found that was missing here, if we compare this to the operational excellence program that we had on campus, we had a burning platform for that program, which is what launched that program. And we seem to be lacking the burning platform now. And one of the things that I've noted here is that, again, in the meantime, shared services was introduced. And so the tendency now on campus isn't to say, our processes are not working well, we need to fix this. It's to say, shared services isn't working well, you need to fix shared services. It's trying to put the burden there. So what do we do about it? How do we go forward from here? I'm not willing to give up. We're going to keep working at this. I've been at it since 2005. I know we can do this. We're a smart campus. And so first it's collaborating with the Central Campus Organizational Development Department on doing the toolkits and the training and the projects. So to continue to do that, because we still have a lot of work, and that enables the people at the front line to get smarter about being able to manage what's within their control to manage. And then following standards that were established, so continuing to use that governance structure for now. Developing and strengthening partnerships. So that is something that I'm working on in my role now as the Chief Operating Officer in Shared Services, is building relationships with the Associate Vice Chancellor of HR, the CFO for the campus, our Sponsored Projects Office, to build those relationships so that we can work on the process improvement that cross the boundaries of our organizations. Strengthening the problem-solving skills. So Bo's presentation earlier, I really appreciated. Asking questions, getting people to become problem solvers is, I think, is the future of how to do this. And then leveraging data and metrics, again, going back to Tom's presentation this morning, I think that when I'm thinking about, we don't have a burning platform, so how do I create one? I'm thinking that data is what I'm going to use, which is what we don't have right now. So we need to create the data so that I can show them the data to say, you do have a burning platform. This is costing you a fortune to run an institution with processes that operate like this. And that's it. Questions, conversation.
This sounds really familiar.
Does? So have you done anything in your organization to try to remedy? And what have you done, and how has it worked?
Well, we're in manufacturing.
Yeah, I've been in manufacturing before too.
And my co-dependent here, our operations VP, we started how long ago?
Use the microphone.
Sorry, we started how long ago? Did we start? Is this on?
Oh, we had the microphone.
We started about 4 years ago, changing over to lean processes. We have some islands of cell manufacturing, and this is all pushing both up and down from the middle. And somewhere along the line, about 5 years ago, Leroy was our QA manager, and he moved over as our operations VP. A recognition that we were headed in the right direction. So it's kind of like, we keep on pushing and keep on pushing and keep on pushing, and we're making some progress. And this is one illustration right here that we have 5 people. Yeah, 5 people here. We have a couple of people over here that did 2 days. And that's really it. Like you said, you stay the course, you're not giving up, you've been doing it since 2005, and it's the same issues that there are people in key positions that don't get it, or they're concerned more about things that have nothing to do with your product or your mission or your charter. Yeah. Thank you.
I got one over here.
Hi. So with a project you've been working on for so long, especially with a giant organization, have you had any issues with keeping the same standards as your organization changes and turnover? Sure. As process owners leave, move around, get promoted. I mean, do you have any tips or advice?
Sure. Even with my own change, we've had a problem. That's what I was just sharing that we did. So during the OE program, since the OE program started winding down. Our chancellor changed, our provost changed, our CFO changed. It changed the dynamics, and we did lose the momentum. And so it was, we were on a path, and then new people came in, and the chancellor and the provost are like, it's really hard to get their attention on this at all. And the CFO has a different way that she wants to approach it. And so it's like, okay, now we have to incorporate in, new opinions. And then my own change from the program office, where I was really the driver of making this happen, and I cannot do that now. Shared services is a full-time job, and we don't have somebody yet in that seat that's like pushing that then for the campus. And so it's gone back to more of a grassroots effort, and it is the front line that recognizes, we and the George and Stephans that recognize we have to have a standard here so that we can work across our organizations. And so I look at, okay, how do I best support that then to make that happen? But I also keep carrying the flag in the position that I'm in now. I also participate in the Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance leadership team, so I continue to bring it up there. And like I said, building the partnerships with the folks that I'm working with. It's challenging, though, because I have to go to them and I have to say, they're quick to tell me what's wrong in my organization. But if I say, and might there be anything, it's kind of like Goodyear, no problems here. They don't have any problems in their organization. So I have to say, yes, you do. And that can be challenging. So that's where the partnership, building the partnership comes in, so we can have the honest conversations about, we have problems. There was one over here, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could speak some more about picking a process owner, because we have a problem with everyone wants to be a process owner and no one will become the owner.
Oh, really? You have, wait a minute.
Everyone wants to
they all want
own
to
their
say,
own thing and not have one person.
They don't want to be accountable.
That'd be a good way to say it.
Yeah, okay, I am familiar with that problem.
Education.
Yes, yeah. Along with getting the ownership, you get accountability. And that is, this was a problem on the Berkeley campus, and still is, to a certain degree, and was when, at the start of this operational excellence program, Bain Consulting came in and worked with us for about 1.5 years, and when they left, one of the things that they said was, you need to work on making decisions here, because everybody wants a say. It goes on for years, we talk about stuff, on and on and on, and nobody will make the decision, because along with the decision comes accountability then. But they won't let you make a decision without their input into it also. Yeah, and that takes the organization, that is at the top, that goes all the way to the top. That the top has to say, no, we're going to start making decisions, and I'm going to hold you accountable for making decisions and meeting those decisions. And so, and actually, it goes all the way to the top, but again, I now sit in the leadership for the Vice Chancellor of Administration and Finance. And one of the projects in operational excellence, there was a wide range of projects in the portfolio for that. One of them was identifying principles that we will work by, in our administration. And one of the principles is we hold ourselves accountable. And so I carry that into this leadership team that I sit with and how are we going to hold ourselves accountable when we're working on something? How are we going to hold ourselves accountable?